Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Johannes Tralla. I'm a journalist at Estonian Public Broadcasting, and I'm pleased to welcome you to a webinar where we're going to discuss the investment opportunities in Ida-Viru County, the biggest industrial region of Estonia on the border with Russia. Now, the recent crisis has demonstrated the vulnerability of global value chains and shown the importance of having production units closer to home in a safer and more controllable environment. Nearshoring instead of offshoring. And this is one of the opportunities that Estonia presents for Nordic, Scandinavian and European countries. We're going to talk about how Estonia can be a partner for your expanding business. We have a list of high-level speakers with profound knowledge and practical skills on how to do business in East Estonia. We're going to discuss the benefits the public sector and the state has to offer, such as grants and subsidies. You're also going to get an overview of the infrastructure in place and the developments in progress. And we're going to go through the labor force characteristics like availability, skills, and average wage. They're all key elements when considering the potential of expanding your business. Now, Ida-Viru County is in the center of the green transition. The economy of the region has been closely linked with oil shale production and processing. That means Estonia will direct all of the allocated EU Just Transition funds to Ida-Viru County, stimulating the employment in industry with more than 340 million euros. Now, after the 2 hours that we're having our discussions here, you will have a good overview of the potential of the region, because you will hear from companies already doing business in Ida-Viru County. A business development manager will describe the soft landing services, and you're going to get an overview of the energy solutions that are available. You can also post your questions by clicking at the Q&A button next to the speaker on the Works Up page. I'll do my best to ask as many as we can squeeze in the schedule here today. Other questions that you have will be answered to you personally after the webinar. Now, to kick off the event, I'm honored to hand over the virtual floor to the Minister of Economic Affairs and Communications, Mr. Andres Sutt.
Hello and welcome to Estonia. I'm very happy to greet you here on the webinar, which is devoted to a very important topic on what are the opportunities for direct investment into Northeast Estonia. And you will hear today many good introductions, good pitches, why it should work and why it is meaningful to invest in Estonia. So my first and most important message is that Estonia is open for business and talents are welcome. Why? Why you should think Estonia is the best place to make your next investment? One, we are very competitive and transparent market. We have political stability and very importantly, we have very Nordic business culture. It has been developed over a number of years, even decades, and I think that is one of the key drivers so far behind our success story. Also, we are very modern e-society, so most of the things in Estonia are done electronically and digitally, and as a digitalization is one of the key megatrends going forward, our society at large is ready to use these benefits. Doing business in Estonia is predictable. If we look at the level of perceived corruption, we are ranking very well in the league tables. Also, we have very digital and paperless processes as it comes to the public services. In terms of investment, there is a fast-track process, so you could see it from 1 year, from decision-making to actual production. We have also very high concentration and actually the highest in Europe in electronics industry. We have some big names here. We have ABB, we have Ericsson, and also Volkswagen Group has chosen Estonia as a location of their global intellectual property portfolio, because Estonia is digital society and because our legal system is very favorable for keeping the intellectual property patents. We have also a good and very sound tradition of timber industry, and we are the largest wooden house exporter in Europe. Taxes are important, and Estonia is well known for a simple, transparent tax system. Easy for an accountant, easy for a CEO, easy for a talent. So you have zero tax rate on reinvested profits, and you will only pay corporate income tax if you pay out dividends. So that really facilitates investment, and it facilitates the transparency of a business account. In Estonia, we have smart and hardworking people, and I think this is really important if we talk about talent. There is very skilled industrial and engineering workforce. We have about 23,000 people in total working in manufacturing. So there is a tradition and there is a skill. We have in the government paying a lot of attention and resources to strong vocational training and higher education system. And as you may know, Estonia ranks number 1 in OECD's PISA tests in Europe. We have strong science and math results, also in reading and teamwork. So this is all about the future and present talent. Also important for your business is transport and logistics. We are located strategically between the Nordics, European Union and CIS markets, or further to Asia. There is a good multimodal transportation hub with deep water and ice-free ports, all to make your business easier. We have long tradition of high quality, globally integrated supply chain management. Again, something what you need if you have Estonia as your location for business. And it's easy to set up a free trade zone for goods so that you can really optimize your taxation and your business processes. Now, why Ida-Virumaa? There are a number of reasons. One very important, it has a collaborative ecosystem from R&D to the production. There is a historical tradition of manufacturing jobs and the culture and skills what you need. We have world-class capabilities in mechatronics, embedded software, metalwork, chemicals and timber. Skilled workers, modern technology and quality certification is a standard. And if you combine it with efficient business environment, transparent Nordic business culture and financial attractiveness, this make Ida-Virumaa or Northeast Estonia very, very lucrative place for investment. And this place has been discovered by investors from Western Europe and North America for decades already. And finally, looking for the next 6 years, we will have a just transition fund available for support the investment into Ida-Virumaa, and the total envelope is more than 300 million. This is all for a future green and technology-intensive growth. There is a good specialization in Ida-Virumaa in chemical sector. There is also full value chain from academia, R&D, production, testing, storage and logistics. Both top universities in Estonia have their colleges and presence in Ida-Virumaa. And of course, more than two-thirds of production is exported to global markets. So this is very good opportunity to explore Ida-Virumaa, explore the investment opportunities And as I said in the beginning, Estonia is open for business, talents are welcome, and your investment is highly welcome and appreciated. Thank you very much and welcome to Estonia.
Thank you, Minister. So what a great overview on why to invest in Estonia. Now, while some of you are still probably considering whether to bring your business to Estonia, Fortaka Group, a Finnish enterprise, has been doing business in Narva for quite some time now. Last year, they even won the award of Best Company of Narva, and they're expanding their business there. Larissa Shabunova is the managing director of Fortaka Estonia. She's also the honorary consul of Finland for Ida-Virumaa. Larissa will tell you what they do and why they do it in East Estonia.
Thank you very much. I will tell you the story of Fortaka Estonia, successful story of investment in Ida-Virumaa. But first, I will tell you a little bit about Fortaka Group, to which Fortaka Estonia in Narva belong to. Fortaka is the leading brand-independent strategic partner to heavy off-highway equipment and marine industries, offering technology, vehicle cabins, and steel fabrications and vehicle assemblies. In Fortaka, we are committed to safety and quality. We have the right delivery accuracy and the right price. The headquarters of Fortaka Group is located in Finland, but in the whole Europe we have several operations. In Finland, one of them is in Narva, in Poland, in Hungary, in Serbia, in Slovakia, and also we have a technology hub in India. Last year, our net sales in Fortaka Group were approximately 220 euro. This year is more than 250 million euro. We have approximately 2,300 employees and being engaged in heavy industry, we are processing more than 75,000 tons of metal. This slide showed to you the representation of the offerings where we are engaged. So basically above the ground, below the ground, and on the ground. Fortaka is experiencing in designing and manufacturing modules and components used in different solutions. This slide showed to you the industries and the customers Fortaka Group is working with. So you can see the customers from construction, container handling, forestry, marine energy, offshore area, material handling, mining, recycling, and other industries. And now about Fortaka Estonia, business site Narva, success story of growth. Fortaka Estonia is located in Narva, and basically we are operating here more than 70 years. And earlier we were a part of Cargotec Group, but from 2012 we became a part of Fortaka Group. And when we started to be the part of Fortaka, actually our operations were unused by approximately 40%, and we produced our products only for one customer. So we were very much dependent on one customer and on one industry. And our strategic focus was how we can boost the sales in Narva, how we can increase the volumes, how we can increase operations, the number of jobs, and also to reduce dependency on one industry and on one customer. So basically we started to concentrate all our attention to looking for potential business opportunities in Europe, in Nordic countries, in Central Europe, and in Eastern Europe. And we managed to find and develop different sources and different areas of production capabilities. So here you can see the examples of the products which we managed to implement and introduce from 2012 to 2030 from different customers. For example, crane booms and bases. You can see different booms and different steel structures. components and beams. And this is not all examples what we are producing. And if we refer to the present situation, then if you compare the situation from today to 2012, our sales increased practically 2 times. And our focus now is to increase the sales more because the opportunities are endless. By doing that, of course, there was a very big question how we make all these increased volumes. And there was made a strategic decision by Fartaka Group to invest in expansion of the operations. And actually in 2019 and 20, we did a really great project on construction of the new factory site with 10,000 square meters production areas and full of modern production equipment. So this building we put into operation in September 2020. Actually, the corona crisis was, of course, quite a difficult time, but we managed to find enough internal strength to continue the expansion project, not to freeze it and not to put it on hold. And as the situation shows now, that was a really right decision to continue the investment and to accomplish the project in the right time. This picture shows to you actually the inner side of our new building, which step by step now is filled up with production lines and equipment. I also would like to explain that we did this expansion project with the really great support of government. We applied for the government support to finance some our machinery. We purchased 2 CNC machines, 2 welding robots, painting and shot blasting chamber, and also press brake. And the government supported us with approximately €1 million of grant, which is basically 25% of our total investment into the machinery. But basically, the total investment into our expansion was more than €10 million. And we still continue the investments because our business is growing. Our commitment to the government was that we create at least 33 new jobs. But actually, if you look at the situation now, we already recruited approximately 100 new employees. Some of them happened due to recovery from the crisis, but some of them are really the increased number of people. We did really good cooperation with technical colleges and Idaviru Vocational Training Center. Today we discussed with them that we basically book the whole class which will be dedicated to Fartaka, and we pay scholarship to all students of training centers which work for our company. We have really good cooperation with Unemployment Fund, with Töötukassa of Estonia. This organization helps us a lot with necessary trainings and also offering us people who could be retrained or who could suit us to our production needs. And also we do a lot in terms of social responsibility based upon our international best practices, standards, and constantly improving sustainability. One of the ways also how we ensure continuous business is investing in people. Today we have really great issue which is connected to how we can find the people, how we can secure the growth of future operations. And the actions which we did recently, that was the establishment of Fartaka Estonia Competence Development Center to support availability of qualified people. So we have a special premise, we have a special dedicated people who train young people to work for us. And because we did such a great step in expansion, creating new jobs and also improving social conditions in our area, we received several critical and important awards in 2020 as the best regional company for 2020, also the best company of Ida-Virumaa in 2020, and also the best company in Narva in 2020. On this picture you can see how the Prime Minister Jüri Ratas in 2020 gives us the award of Regional Mazikas 2020. But we don't limit ourselves with just expansion of production capabilities. We also improve our surroundings. For example, one old buildings from Soviet time, which belongs to Fartaka, now is under demolition. And we do this project together with Credex, also government support. And by the end of the year, we plan to demolish this building and to create really nice and modern parking area for 200 places. And since we are located in the center of Narva, this will improve a lot the surroundings of Narva and the view of the central street of Narva. And I would like to finish my presentation with what our people say about our company. You also will see some of our premises from inside.
Наш завод – стабильное, активно развивающееся предприятие, оснащенное самым современным оборудованием, сварочными роботами и механообрабатывающими центрами. И молодые люди, работая у нас, имеют большую возможность развиваться в своей профессии. Вот за это мне нравится наш завод, и поэтому я работаю на нем без малого полвека.
Thank you very much, Larissa.
Yeah.
We don't have any questions through workshop, but I may just ask one now, because our next speaker will describe the soft landing options that the services provide. I was just wondering, how have you experienced this? I mean, how easy was it to set up your business or expand the business in Ida-Viru region, and what kind of help did you actually experience?
Yeah. Of course, it was not easy. It takes a lot of efforts. First, you need to find the opportunities, how you can implement it. But actually, we had really good marketing and sales strategies which could help us to bring the business into Narva. But I also would like to mention that we had really great support of the government from all the institutions, started from finance and trainings and education, and also the Stötokassa, who is an employment fund. So basically, I think that if there are opportunities, you need to take them, and you will have the right support from the government.
Thank you so much, Larissa.
Thank you.
Our next speaker makes sure newcomers have a soft landing in Estonia. Ida-Viru Industrial Areas Development Foundation, or in short, IVIA, offers their customers extensive individual support in order to make the process of entering the Estonian market as fast, convenient, and as efficient as possible. Not only do they know all the important phone numbers, IVIA is also developing 5 industrial and business parks in Ida-Viru County. Nele Rogenbaum will tell you more about what they have to offer. But to set the mood, let's look at a video first.
Hello and welcome to East Estonia, a place to do business with a global reach. With the support of local governments, this region has a fully developed business infrastructure that creates a successful business climate for international companies. The city of Rakvere is where regional development for East Estonia is managed by the Estonian Investment Agency.
The Estonian Investment Agency is not an organization that lands projects in Estonia. Companies are not projects for us. We genuinely care that they become part of Estonia's business landscape. We want them to have a voice here and succeed.
Whether it's building relations with local governments, networking, or creating a local value chain for more efficient business, taking care of foreign companies' needs is their job.
Vikan is a Danish concern operating in Estonia for over 15 years, and here we work as a family. For foreign companies, the Estonian Investment Agency does have exceptional aftercare programs, and this is why companies like us really want to stay here.
While Derossi offers turnkey marine interior solutions to clients all over Scandinavia, it's all being produced in Sarevere, Estonia.
We have an international team, but our headquarters is here in Estonia.
In business, soft landing is paramount. IVIA provides free services related to project monitoring and integration into local business environment, as well as helping solve simple everyday problems that inevitably come up when you're staying in a different country.
We help you expand your business.
Here, you will find dedicated partners specialized in providing high-tech solutions for even the most complicated needs, ranging from design and marketing to qualified workforce, accounting, legal consultation, covering all your needs from starting your business here to sustaining it. Do you see your company here? Invest in Estonia. Here's how to get started.
Hello and welcome. And thank you for the opportunity for letting me speak to you about the northeastern county of Ida-Virumaa. I'd like to introduce to you first the location in case you are new to Estonia and to the region here. We are on the border. We are the largest industrial area that is on the EU border with Russia, which makes trade both ways beneficial and possible. A little bit about the eastern Estonian region of Ida-Viru. We are very well connected through highways and railroads. We have all-year navigable port of great depth. We are planning an airfield near to Narva. We have grants and subsidies available that are specifically designed for our region. And in Estonia, we have a very simple and clear tax system, which we consider to be a great advantage of whole Estonia and our region also. I will give you a little bit of numbers as a background information. So Ida-Viru County is the third largest in Estonia. The biggest city of Narva, which has already been mentioned today several times, is the capital city with 58,000 people. Our GDP is almost 8% of the whole Estonian GDP. We have 4 colleges that are present in our region, including Tallinn Technical University, University of Tartu. We have vocational schools that train personnel for your businesses, welding, machinery, woodworks, textile, and the service industry. And a brand new initiative that has just started this year is Koodjofi. And this is a programming and coding school which is partnered with Bolt, Wise, Pipedrive, and Microsoft, some well-known names and startups that have come from Estonia. And behind this initiative is the need for IT people in all fields. If we talk about the automation and digitalization of industries and all businesses, we are in desperate need of IT knowledgeable people. In Ida-Virumaa, the last 10 years have seen a great number of investments. These are just a few numbers of private and public investments altogether. Private investors in EVIA industrial parks have contributed to this number 2.1 billion euros during the last 10 years, and this number is only growing. A little bit about our organization. EVIA, for short, is for Ida-Viru Industrial Areas Development Foundation. Our organization was founded by the Ministry of Economic Affairs and 4 local municipalities with the aim of attracting international businesses and creating jobs. So our goal is to create 4,400 new jobs, and we are well on the way to achieve this goal. But we are not only a real estate developer, but we do local investment promotion agency work as well. What we offer for our customers, first of all, is fully developed industrial real estate with all the modern technical infrastructure in place. So you can come to Ida-Viru region and set up a factory with very smooth and easy transition. But we also offer soft landing services, which means that we provide you with all the help you can possibly need with setting up a company or expanding your business here. We get you in contact with local authorities. We help you with legal connections, with the licensing. We help you do feasibility studies and assist in any way that you need. We also recommend partners for your projects if you need architects, subcontractors, or assistance in getting your foot in the door with local governments. Basically, we help you to integrate into the local business environment. And also, after you have set up your business, we won't forget about you. Our doors are always open for more help if you need it. And we want you to succeed. We have, our organization has won several awards for helping our investors settle in Estonia. This is just one example of it. And just a short overview of the projects that we are working on right now. So far in our industrial parks, of 5 of which are already working and fully functional, investors have invested about 100 million euros. But we are right now in negotiations with more than 30 companies who are planning to invest about $1.2 billion euros altogether in the parks, expanding their businesses in East Estonia. We have a couple of parks in development, and I will touch upon this subject a little bit later. Just as an example, here is an overview of our Narva Industrial Park, which is almost sold out, as you can see from the picture. Just a few plots in the green still available. But in this business park, all the infrastructure is already built and in place. So water, sewage, roads, connections to central heating, and electrical substations, anything a business might need is already brought to the edge of the plot. So you can just plug in and do your business. Also there, because this area is close to the power station, there's a possibility to connect directly through a direct line of electricity, and it will cut the costs up to 30% of normal prices. One example of our Narva Industrial Park is Aquaphor. Aquaphor is a producer of water purification systems. So they came to us a few years back and built their first factory in our parks. Now, as we speak, they are expanding and building another factory nearby to this site, and they are already planning a third mega factory, which will be about 110,000 square meters in our third phase of this Narva Industrial Park. And Aquaphor is a very good example of one of our foreign companies who has come and stayed and is constantly planning expansions, and we're helping them to do that. One more example of a little bit of a different niche industrial park is the Baltic Chemical Park in the city of Kohtla-Järve. This is specifically designed to attract chemical companies. There are already several companies in place who function there. VKG is an Estonian producer and processor of oil shale. And right next to them is Eastman, an American company in the chemical industry. The specification or the uniqueness of this park is the railroad that runs through the park, which makes it a useful connection for companies that really need the railroad connection and to bring in their goods or export their goods via railroad. Now, this Estonian Industrial Symbiosis Agropark is our most ambitious project yet. In short, this is 1,500 hectares of old mining lands, of surface mining, that are no longer in use. And we looked at the area and the power station next to it, which is the largest in Estonia. And we wanted to work out a system or a park that uses the resources or the leftovers that we have from the power station and from the area, and see how we can use them in different kinds of industries to make the economy more circular and to have all these businesses connected to each other. So the park, the agro park in short, that we're planning there will have greenhouses. It will have biomaterial manufacturing, part manufacturing, biochemistry, and a large portion of the park is for renewable energy. And we also want to keep the green areas that are currently there and use the waterways and make it all work as one system. As you can see in this schematic, that all these companies, all these industries will be connected to each other. So right now we are in the phase of spatial planning, and we have partnered up with a Dutch company called Accept Integrated Sustainability, who is helping us with the concept and the connections in Europe to bring this idea really to life. We are expecting first investments by 2025, if everything goes well. Some other projects that Hivia is working on are not really related to real estate, but they are based on what our customers need. So one of these projects is, for example, an industrial robotics center, which is meant for the research development, testing of different automation platforms and lines, and training people. It started out with the idea from Aquaphor, one of our customers that I mentioned. Their need for their mega factory is 300 new employees who will have to work with industrial robots. But it's not only this company's need, it's a need for several other companies in the region. So we put our heads and ideas together and kind of initiated this project where the center will be funded and different companies can then train their people, test their new robots, and get everything in place before they move these people and the machinery to their actual place of business. Another project is a digital and multimedia studio, and this need really rose up from the recent crisis where all sorts of conferences and seminars had to move online like this one. So in our region there is not a great selection of studios with high quality sound system, lighting systems, and all these needs that are now present when we're organizing these events. A third project we're working on right now is Industrial Incubator, and this will be a place where foreign investors can start their pilot projects and test out some of their ideas in a smaller environment. Like, you don't have to build a big factory to start a business. You can start from this incubator, which is specialized for industries and not services. And another interesting project, which is kind of new to us and new to the whole area, is the spatial planning of an airfield near Narva. And this project also started with a need of our customers when they are flying in their executives, they're flying in their specialists to Tallinn, and Tallinn-Narva by car and by train is more than 2 hours, and there's a clear need to get faster connections. So we are now working on planning an airfield near Narva. Just a small list of foreign companies who are already operating in the area, in our business parks and elsewhere in the Ida-Viru region. You already heard from Fortaco today, but some well-known and less well-known companies from Finland, Sweden, the US, Canada, and other places are already present. So if you are interested in getting contact with these companies to find out how they have started and done their business in East Estonia, feel free to contact me and I will get you in touch with them. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nele. I do see we don't have any questions through Worksup now, which maybe is a good time to remind all the people following us through Worksup to post your questions there. Of course, you can always approach Nele or her colleagues bilaterally via email or just call them up. But anyway, today might be a good chance to post your questions through Worksup. Now, Nele, I might just use the opportunity to ask a question myself. You described the companies who are already present and also described the opportunities that are available, but which type of companies would you expect to start their business or enlarge their business in Ida-Viru region? What type of enterprises would you like to see there?
Yes, we have very strong industrial traditions in metalworks and machinery, but we want to expand our horizons a little bit more to the greener and more innovative companies. So we very much welcome clean tech and green tech companies, maybe battery solutions, producing biomaterials. Things that have not yet fully been implemented in the Narva region, because with the Just Transition Fund, we are trying to change the way you look at industry in East Estonia.
All right. How many of those companies are already on your list? I mean, how many have you contacted yourself to offer their a new plot on your wonderful industry park?
Great question, because this is what I do every day. Try to find these specific new companies who would benefit from coming to East Estonia. So I can tell you that there's about 5 or 6 on my table right now in negotiations.
All right. Well, good luck in closing those deals, Nele.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. New companies set up in Narva will also benefit from renewable energy produced right next door. Andres Vainola from Enefit Power will tell you more about how to energize your business in Narva. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and I really have honor to be here to represent our company to our future customers. I really believe that we can find through that kind of webinars customers which not yet invested here in Estonia. So let me start to very common issue from our side. Then it's more clear what we can propose and provide to our existing customer and future customer as well. So starting from the scratch, everybody, every kind of industry, any kind of citizen and nations has actually facing to the energy dilemma. And I just saying where we are and what our most biggest challenges in energy dilemma, which actually mean that the security of supply of energy and production capacity related to the price and to the environmental impact. Everybody knows there is kind of restriction to that. If the security of supply higher, then its price of the energy as well high one, so that the end customers are unable to pay for that. So our everyday duty is not just to find how we can provide the energy in best shape with production capacity, price, and environmental impact. But from our side as well, we're helping our existing customers to reduce their environmental footprint and to reach to zero CO2 emissions. So for that, we're basically doing green revolutions and try to find the path to the zero carbon emission, as I said already, not for only our production, but we're helping to reach that zero carbon emission to our customers as well. And through that journey, we're making kind of transformation from conventional utility business to more chemical industry. And for that, we're using more and more products from renewable research and circular research. So that's for basically for introduction to explain to our future customers what we were proposing to them, what we're ready to propose right now. So next to our one of the biggest power plant, which is the producing heat and power at Narva power plant, they set up kind of technology park, so-called Narva 2.0. And our aim is that to turn that existing production, which historically was based on fossil energy source, to 100% to renewable one. So, and I would say we're already in the middle of that journey, and you can see later on exactly what I mean in the middle of that journey to reach that 100% renewable energy production. Currently, we're locating actually our industry parks locating next to decommission and old Narva power plants units were already demolished and already switched off actually 4 different blocks in Narva power plant and made renovation of existing one some 10-12 years ago. And nowadays we're producing that electrical energy, almost 35% we're using renewable energy source for production of electrical energy and heat. So historically it used 100% kind of fossil energy source for production. Nowadays, we instead of that up to 35% using, for instance, wood chip and wood waste. So, which is according to EU legalizations, CO2 tax-free. So we shouldn't be pay for that part of generation, the CO2 tax. And what nowadays we're doing on top of that, we already set up kind of wind parks. We're extending our existing wind parks and solar panels on top and roof of our existing buildings. So nowadays we are able to switch through direct line that our existing Narva wind park, by the way, which is consists 17 wind turbines, each of them 2.3 megawatts. We can switch via direct line to end customer here who locating at our plots or nearby by our technological parts in Narva. So all of them inside of 6-7 kilometers, so we can able to make kind of direct energy supply to those technology parks. And on top of that, we still have a very good connection to the main grid, to the national grid. The volume of that up to 1,000 megawatts. So, which mean actually we're able to extend our production to our future customers, especially to the customers whose production is energy intensive. So that's capacity available for our existing customers and future customers as well. And in parallel, we're cleaning up our old factories and plots to set up industrial areas. Nowadays, there is around 30 hectares, and on top of that as well, we released the production buildings and proposing there as well plots inside of the houses which are almost renovated. But let I emphasize that our core business is not to provide just technology parks or plots to our customers. Our core business is to produce as cleanest energy as possible for our customers who are located nearby our power plants. That's as well, we're not competing with EVIA, who the developer of technology park. We're mostly cooperating with them, and not only with them, but with other heavy industries nearby Narva as well. So, as I already said that during that our journey to the zero emissions, we're already using 35% of wood chips and waste wood for production of our energy. But there is kind of EU initiatives as well to support that transition to be 100% green. And we have existing plan to turn by 2026 that existing power plants 100% to be renewable energy production. So by using all kind of food chips and other alternatives search of energy which is free of CO2 emission taxation. And on top of that, in parallel, we're aiming to install up to 75 megawatts brand new solar parks nearby our existing areas. So, which mean actually all that energy surge, 75 megawatts from solar parks, the more than 50 megawatts wind parks, direct connection to our customers will be available within a couple of years. Then on top of that, once again, you can see the number of the plots and what kind of services we can provide to our customers as well. For instance, treatment of the wastewater of our customers. If some investors would like to set up kind of heavy production where they're using as well the water, then we can treat the wastewater of them as well. So we have for that knowledge, people, and all needed environmental permits. So that would be as well interesting for some of possible investors. I know we're currently as well talking with one of them who is especially interested about our kind of services to treat the waste of their production. So and all those technology parks were related mostly to them who would like to use energy, not only the electrical energy, but as well the steam, not steam for central heating, but steam for the production. So that capacity is as well available for our partners nearby our power plants. As I mentioned at earlier slides there, we have up to 1,000 megawatts main grid connections to the main grid. But currently, we're utilizing, I would say, only half of that. And especially for that purpose, we already started to negotiation with a couple of investors to find who would like to build up together with us, let's say, more than 100 megawatts energy-intensive production here. And for that purpose, we're able to fix the energy price for the future as well, up to 10 years, why not to 15 years? Everybody knows recently how all the energies, gas, electricity, gasoline jumps up. So for that purpose, we have capacity to fix the energy prices for our customers who energy-intensive production for 10, even up to 15 years. Our moderator mentioned as well the labor market situation in Ida-Virumaa. Here you can see our number of employees and how we did kind of turnaround in our energy production units during last 4 or 5 years. So we're starting 2015, and at that period we employed more than 4,500 employees. Nowadays we employ, let's say, 2,500, even bit less. The point why I'm showing that data is that all those people, they not disappeared from that region. They just transformed from one industry to another. And we know even that we made kind of, during recent years, kind of cooperation with our partners where we help to hire to them our people, and we made kind of retraining together with our partners when we just outsource part of our number of employees to them. So all kind of that kind of actions available there still, and I know that not only IVEA but all state departments as well supporting the heavy industries there to find the right people, educated people, and assisting them to be really learned from one industry to another. So the labor issue should be problematic for investors at that region. That was my point, what I would like to show that slide especially. So basically, that's all from my side, and I'm ready to answer for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andres. I'm afraid we don't have any questions for you now because you obviously covered your field elaborately, and people will either ask you personally next time, or they understood everything already. So thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the oil shale-related companies located in Ida-Viru region accounted for more than 50% of Estonia's total greenhouse gas emissions. Now that means the transition to climate neutrality will also have the largest impact on the Ida-Viru region of Estonia. Now that's not just a challenge, but also an opportunity for investors to use grants and subsidies, as all of Estonia's just transition funds will be directed to the region. Ivan Sergeyev from the Ministry of Finance will explain in greater detail. Ivan, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here today, finding the time. And yes, indeed, thank you for the introduction. My name is Ivan Sergeyev, and I am the coordinator of the Just Transition process at the Ministry of Finance in the Republic of Estonia. And yeah, you've heard plenty of information today, but one important part is, yes, indeed, the oil shale sector is highly concentrated in the Ida-Viru region of Estonia, and that is why the Just Transition mechanism, of which you might have heard in relation to other countries in the EU, will be applied specifically to that region. But more about this in the presentation now. So what is the context of the Just Transition in general? As you might know, it is something that stems from European climate goals. So basically, as we all know, the green transition is nothing new, right? It's a global process that has been going on for years. For example, in the case of Estonia, it started in 1994 when we as a country joined the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And then since then, we've been gradually adjusting our emissions. We've been, trying to make them as small as we could. In 2015, the Paris Agreement set an aim to stop global warming maximum at 2 degrees Celsius, or preferably, if possible, at 1.5 degrees by the end of the century. For this, it is necessary to reach a so-called climate neutrality. Climate neutrality doesn't mean that we don't emit any CO2 into the atmosphere, but it means that we are able to, that the net emission is zero. So if we do emit something, then we need to be able to capture it and store it or utilize it in some way. And so based on this overarching goal of climate neutrality, which different countries or different regions set deadlines for themselves as to when to achieve it. For example, as you might have heard, China has set its goal to 2060. But for example, the EU collegially and Estonia specifically on the scale of the country has set the goal of reaching climate neutrality by 2050. Just to have an idea of what kind of numbers or what kind of a transition we're talking about, then in 2017, Estonia's total greenhouse gas emissions amounted to about 19 million tons per year. Achieving climate neutrality, in our case, on the scale of a country, means that we would be able to afford, let's say, to emit only a little over 2 million tons of greenhouse gases per year. So, as you can see, it's more than an 8-time reduction if you compare it to 2017. However, Estonia has been doing pretty well as far as achieving our climate goals is concerned. So, if we look at the, let's say, the time with which we measure our achievement, which is 1990, we've already achieved more than a 60% decline in our greenhouse gases. Especially the decline has been obviously drastic after the collapse of the Soviet Union. But lately, in the last few years, we've also been making quite remarkable strides as far as reducing our CO2 footprint, increasing the amount of renewable energy that we use, as you just heard. And so we're kind of well in line with our strategic, or like on track with reaching our strategic goals. Also, considering that the climate neutrality as such is not a new concept, but it is a new commitment that the European Union has taken. So in order to align ourselves better with this new strategic commitment that we've made, and a number of strategic documents are currently being in review by the government, by the parliament in Estonia. But one thing is for certain, is that the transition, although it is a good process and we have to make the transition, we really have no choice if we want to, keep existing on this planet. The point is that the transition is not quite as smooth for everyone. It's not, for some of us, it's switching to, to the renewable electricity, to something else. But in cases of certain regions, this transition is a really painful process. For example, as was mentioned before, the oil shale sector in Estonia is highly concentrated in Ida-Virumaa, and that resulted in the fact that in 2019, by now the proportion has changed a little bit, but in 2019 the oil shale sector related companies located in Ida-Viru accounted for over 50% of Estonians' total greenhouse gas emissions. So it's obvious that the transition to climate neutrality will have and is already having a major impact, specifically on the Ida-Viru region in Estonia. The impact of the transition is very varied. We've conducted a study which is called the Adaptation of Ida-Virumaa County's Economic and Labor Market to the Reduction of the Oil Shale Industry, and also, let's say, carried out a number of different outreach activities. And what we're seeing is that the impact of the transition towards climate neutrality in Ida-Viru means obviously a cascading economic effect on the entire economy of the region. It impacts employment, jobs in the region, career and training opportunities. It also impacts migration decisions, the general sense of security, and how do I say, like how sure people are about their region, and so on and so forth. And those are how do I say, they're not simple issues. They're obviously very difficult. This is a wicked problem, as we know, transition to climate neutrality. But these are really clear and dealable things. And so this is why last year, in 2020, the European Union decided to establish a so-called just transition mechanism. Obviously, the transition that Ida-Virumaa is undergoing is not, it is unique, but it is similar to the transition that a bunch of different regions all throughout the European Union need to undergo. So the just transition mechanism and the just transition fund that we're going to talk about in a second is something that actually is, it covers the whole of the EU. But we do need to remark that in case of Estonia, the amount of funds that is going to be pulled into the Ida-Viru region is the highest per capita comparing to the other countries of the EU. So what is the just transition mechanism, technically? The just transition mechanism, its goal is to enable regions and people to address the social, economic, employment, and environmental impacts of the transition towards our 2030 targets, and also the climate neutrality by 2050. In the context of Estonia, since Ida-Viru is the most impacted area, it is also the target territory for the Just Transition Mechanism funds. And in order to access those funds, we're currently compiling a so-called territorial just transition plan. The just transition mechanism, as such, consists of 3 pillars. The first pillar is the Just Transition Fund, and you've probably heard about it previously. This is a fund that is basically foreseen for grants, for the money to be dispersed in order to motivate the development of the region, the transition of the region, and those funds are, let's say, well, yeah, grants. You don't have to return them. So the volume of the funds in case of Estonia is about 340 million euros plus technical assistance. And as I said, it's the highest per capita rate in the EU. The second pillar of the Just Transition mechanism is the so-called Just Transition scheme under InvestEU. Probably a lot of you have heard about the InvestEU mechanism. That is also something that can be applied throughout the European Union. However, for the Just Transition, there is a specific window to be used in the InvestEU program. And what it is essentially budgetary guarantees for private sector. It supports investments into sustainable infrastructure, development, innovation, digitalization, and one of the goals is to provide access to finance for small and medium-sized enterprises. And the third pillar is the public sector loan facility. So obviously the transition is not something that only the people and the economy have to undergo, but also the public sector that is being supported by the taxes that the private sector pays. So the third pillar addresses specifically the needs of the public sector. So in short, the first pillar is grants. The second pillar is essentially loans and budgetary guarantees for the private sector. And the pillar number 3 is loans and guarantees for the public sector. So what could be supported under the JTF? Essentially, anything that has to do with modernization, diversification, economic reconversion, micro-enterprises, SMEs. So productive investments into mostly SMEs. The SMEs are, let's say, the target group for the JTF. SMEs, just to make sure, are the companies that are that employ less than 250 people and who have the annual turnover of less than 50 million euros. But what else? So other supported activities include investments into the creation of new firms that lead to job creation, investment in research, innovation activities, renewable energy, energy efficiency, circular economy, investments into regeneration and decontamination of brownfield areas, professional development and retraining of employees, which is definitely very important and something that companies that are interested in investing in the region can definitely benefit from. But also, obviously, the workers that have to exit the oil shale sector in the foreseeable future and transition to new sectors. They are being supported both job search and training opportunities. And also, there are certain investments in the fields of education and social inclusion or integration that can be supported under the JTF. A special, let's say, there are also certain exceptions and special provisions. As I said, the JTF is mostly geared towards small and medium enterprises. Large enterprises can also be, can also be supported. Also, actions aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions can be supported. However, there are certain additional justifications that are required in order to justify those investments. It is assumed that larger enterprises generally have better funding, better access to outside funding, and so they don't need quite as much help. So the large enterprises and CO2 reduction efforts can be supported if they're really necessary for implementation of the territorial just transition plan. And as I said, they need a slightly different justification within the fund. The exceptions, or what is excluded from JTF support, there are 4 things. Production, processing, distribution, storage, or combustion of fossil fuels. So essentially anything that has to do with fossil fuels, including byproducts of producing fossil fuels, cannot be supported from the JTF. Production of tobacco products is not supported. Nuclear energy, neither. Enterprises and financial difficulties, neither. So those are the 4 exceptions. Let me tell you a little bit about how we're doing. So as I said, we're compiling the so-called Territorial Just Transition Plan, the TJTP, and we're over halfway into developing it. So the process started last year in spring, and we're hoping to start open calls for companies who would like to apply for support early next year. So how have we been doing so far? So in spring, summer last year, certain updates of relevant strategic documents were initiated. Ministries submitted their proposals. Also, different interest groups sent in their ideas of what the JTF could be used for, or what Ida-Virumaa as a region generally needs in order to make a leap in development and reprofile away from the oil shale. A steering committee and a just transition platform were set up. Public consultations were carried out, and a study on the transition effects was launched in fall. And so basically what you could say is the brainstorming, so let's say like a massive brainstorming session was carried out in spring, summer last year. And then that kind of sort of started to crystallize in fall, winter last year, when the received proposals from the ministries and the interest groups were processed and discussed by the steering committee. An initial JTF distribution proposal was prepared and submitted to the cabinet of ministers. And the first informal meetings with the European Commission took place. And then starting this year, in spring and summer, what we were dealing with was we were preparing the full draft of Estonia's territorial just transition plan. We submitted it to the European Commission. We're currently in negotiations with the Commission, and we are elaborating specific interventions of like, what are we going to use those 340 million for? What would be most beneficial for the region? So in preparing the territorial just transition plan, Estonia has obviously organized and implemented a comprehensive partnership. That's how we do things here in this country. We consult. We like to do things together. So in case of preparing the territorial just transition plan, a bunch of different outreach or how do I say, like partnership efforts were made. Well, one of them, and one of the most important ones, was probably the setting up of the steering committee. The steering committee was set up by the Ministry of Finance, and its task is to both monitor the preparation and implementation of the Just Transition Plan. The committee is composed of 18 different stakeholders, including relevant ministries, regional bodies, representatives of employees, employers, environmental organizations, universities, and so on. So it's a really broad group that is looking through the Just Transition Plan and commenting on, what should be developed further, or if we have some, kind of something left something out, then that a relatively large body of advisors drive our attention to it. Then on the other hand, on a regional level, the Regional Just Transition Platform was initiated by the Ida-Viru County Association of Local Governments. It is comprised of some 50 plus stakeholders, and it also has regular meetings. So it's like a larger body of local stakeholders who are commenting on our efforts. And also, obviously, some soft networking structures, such as the Regional Scientific Council, the tourism and educational clusters. There is also a creative industries cluster that is being developed. And they also provide, all of these structures provide input for us for the development of the TJTP. And broader public consultation activities that include public seminars, written consultations, focus groups, discussions with stakeholders, public communication, and so on. So it's quite a large partnership that helps us develop the territorial just transition plan and make sure that it's actually objective and it tries to hit the real targets that are perceived as real necessary development needs, not just somebody somewhere in the corner writes some sort of a paper up and then submits it to the European Commission. It is a very broadly discussed initiative. So what are the development needs that have been, let's say, that we've been able to map so far? There are three main development needs. The first one is obviously restructuring the economy of the region with the view of diversifying it and creating new high value-added jobs. So what that means is setting up the modern, well, not setting up, but developing a modern manufacturing industry. As you've heard from the presentations before, modern manufacturing industry is not something that is like new to the Ida-Viru region. People are actually used to working in industrial and manufacturing facilities. So in that sense, that's something that we can just develop. It's something that is natural for Ida-Viru region. Also, the diversification and creation of a viable service economy is highly important. So all of those workers, they need to, there needs to be enough services to make sure that they're motivated to actually stay in Ida-Viru and work there and be productive. Development of higher value-added products and services is something that we need to deal with, and also addressing market failures in access to capital investments and R&D, since there are some currently. The second most important development need is supporting the people and the communities impacted by the transition process. So reprofiling and labor mobility support for oil shale sector employees is paramount. Skills development and as part of the restructuring, providing a social safety net, activating participation of the communities in the process of transitioning. So the transition is not something that is being done to the communities, it's something that the communities need to have an active say in. Also mobilizing municipal finances in order to support the communal transition into the new economy, into the later half of the 21st century, and unlinking district heating from oil shale production while avoiding energy poverty is another part of the needs as this comprising the second larger block. And the third one, not surprisingly, is alleviating environmental impacts related to the mining of oil shale and its processing. So that includes rewilding and rehabilitation of contaminated brownfield sites, increasing the region's circular capacity, and developing it as a part of the restructuring of the economy. So not just, circular capacity, but kind of making sure that it's an innate part of the new economy that we're trying to build up in Ida Viru. So now to the interesting part. What is let's say, the proposal? So what are we planning to do actually with those 340 million, knowing everything that I've just presented to you? So what we've done is we've roughly divided the funds, the 340 million, into two major programmatic strands, as we call them. One is the economy and labor, and it will have about 80% of the overall JTF volume in Estonia. It was highlighted as the most important challenge. It was highlighted as the most important growth opportunity for Ida Virumaa, and so that is why let's say, the lion's share of the JTF is going to go towards economy and labor activities. The second programmatic strand is environment and social inclusion, and this strand tackles social, environmental, and community aspects of the transition. So what are those two strands comprised of? The first one, the economy and labor. The biggest chunk of the 250 plus million that goes into this strand will be given to, or let's say, routed to Ida Viru Grant Investment Grant. I'll go a little bit into detail about it a little later. But this is the grant that will support really large-scale investments. Second intervention is increasing the knowledge intensity of Ida Viru entrepreneurship, 50 million for that. Services in support of economic diversification, so helping diversify the region's economy away from oil shale and towards future-proof, climate-neutral economy. 25 million are foreseen for this activity. Ida Viru Small and Medium Enterprises Investment Grant, which is geared it's called small and medium enterprises, but it's mostly geared towards really small and micro enterprises, I would say. So it's mostly, and you can also see from the allocation to it, 15 million. Obviously, no major investments in this activity, but digitalization, updating, let's say, systems and production processes is something like some of the activities that could be supported through this fourth activity. Then the JTF labor market measures, obviously geared mostly towards the oil shale employees who are exiting the sector, and they need to be made to feel comfortable and cared about while they are transitioning. But this is also an interesting measure for the companies planning to make an investment in Ida Viru to keep this activity in mind, knowing that their future employees are being taken care of by the JTF in Estonia. And the sixth, let's say, major activity in this strand is increasing the volume of in-service training, vocational higher education offering, 25 million. The second strand is the environment and social inclusion strand. And here we have 5 activities. First of them is decoupling district heating from oil shale. I'll maybe explain a little bit as to, this is important because so far a number of cities in Ida Virumaa have been heated by the, let's say, refuse heat of the oil shale processing processes. And so if we're exiting or phasing out or basically in the context of our climate goals and the exiting oil shale, it is obvious that they can't just leave people and leave cities without heating solutions. So the JTF tries to tackle this issue as the first activity in the strand of environment and social inclusion. Alleviating environmental and health impacts of oil shale mining and processing is the second activity. Empowering people's well-being in Ida-Virumaa deals mostly with social welfare, health issues, let's say providing mental help to the employees of the oil shale sector and such. The fourth activity is local government investments in JTF-eligible areas. So making sure that the local governments have the funding to invest into things that they perceive as most important in order to support the transition of their communities. And the last one, and my personal favorite, is the support for regional initiatives amplifying the just transition. As I said, the just transition obviously stems from climate goals, and it deals mostly with economy and labor, but we need to make sure that the community is on board. We need to make sure that the community actually participates in the process of the transition. And this fifth activity in the second strand of Estonia's JTF is meant explicitly for that, to support the youth, to support let's say, the parts of the society that usually don't speak up too much, make sure that we cherish and kind of reanalyze and utilize well our previous industrial heritage and activities like this. So to go a little bit deeper into detail on three specific interventions that might be interesting to you, I prepared a few slides on those three specific activities. The first one is the Ida-Viru Grant Investment Grant, the 153 million, and the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications is the responsible ministry for implementing this specific grant. The goal of the measure, or the goal of the intervention, is to diversify the region's economy by supporting new, relatively large-scale productive investments in businesses with higher added value jobs. The measure will be available to both SMEs and larger companies, provided that the companies comply with the requirements set out in the JTF regulation itself, with the EU ETS principles, also the do no significant harm principle, and other state aid regulations. Funding will be distributed via open calls. So it's not something that we decide on, who, as the government, who receives the funding, but companies have an equal opportunity to apply for the funding. Supported actions will be let's say this action will support mostly capital investments into the production of new products or provision of new services, as well as creation of new enterprises. It also supports research and development, staff training, and utility network connections, and design costs that are related to making those capital investments. And what kind of numbers are we talking about? We're talking about 25 to 35% of investment volume being able to be supported, depending on the size of the project, the size of the enterprise itself, number of jobs created, and so on. These conditions are currently being developed further. And the amount of support, as we see it now, it might change a little bit, so please do keep yourself informed after today's seminar. But what we're thinking currently is the amount of support could be range from, let's say, 500,000 to about 10 million per project, for projects with a total value of up to 50 million euros. And for projects that are larger than 50 million euros, the support could be expanded up to 15 million. But that does need to be, we're still developing. But you can at least see the amounts approximately of what we're talking about, what kind of support. As you can see, it's quite good numbers, in my humble opinion. Second thing I would like to comment a little bit briefly about is the increasing of knowledge intensity of entrepreneurship in Ida-Viru. There are two ministries that are responsible for this particular measure. It's the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications, as with the previous intervention, but also the Ministry of Education and Research. And the total volume of this intervention is 50 million. Through this measure, what is supported is, let's say, the structural shift of the Ida-Viru economy through the development of knowledge-intensive economic activities with higher added value. Funding will also be distributed via a combination of open calls in case of enterprises and supporting enterprise activities, and direct programmatic funding in case of R&D institutions. Supported actions vary from applied research, creating, testing, and piloting new technologies, hiring scientific personnel, and so on. And the third one is the services in support of economic diversification. Essentially, the intervention aims to increase the volume and improve the quality of business development services in the region, including through business incubation, development of startups, tourism and creative economy, ecosystem, and so on. So basically, let's say if it was an older company that is already in Ida-Viru, through this measure, they can receive support to find new avenues for development or receive advice as to where to develop in the context of our new climate goals. The time frame is pretty fast. We're hoping that by the end of the 2022, applications should be submitted and decisions made on projects and proposals in the amount of at least 134 million. So if you have good ideas, do keep us in mind, start preparing your submissions, let's say. By the end of 2023, we're hoping that 191 million will be committed. And the payouts, by 2024, 60 million worth of projects should be completed. And by 2026, at least 3/3 of the whole fund volume needs to be paid out. So this is it. Going forward, essentially we're refining our territorial just transition plan. We're having other technical meetings with the Commission. And we hope to have the documents approved by the Commission early next year, and then also start the open calls. And let's keep in mind that we're doing all of this, obviously, to restructure the economy of the Ida-Viru region and all of that, but we have some higher goals in mind, and that is the climate neutrality. So this is the way we all can participate in it, by investing in and providing new jobs and building up new economy in the Ida-Viru region. And thank you very much, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks a million, Ivan. We have one question for you, actually, before you leave the stage. You described all the support schemes very in a detailed manner, but what support schemes, funds or grants can be practically useful for renewable energy project developers? I guess a renewable energy project developer asks.
It depends on what kind of renewable energy we're talking about, because if we're talking about establishing, let's say, wind farms, then there are other grant and support schemes in Estonia that deal with that issue. So the JTF, as I mentioned in the very beginning, the main goal of the JTF is not to make the energy transition. It is to alleviate the impact made by the energy transition, right? So there are slightly different goals. So in case of the JTF, what could be supported, for example, if it's a company who wants to invest into a production facility for accumulators, superconductors, to produce wind turbines in Ida-Virumaa, then yes, this is your program, let's say. But if you're planning to actually build a wind farm or a solar farm and then sell electricity into the grid, then you might want to look into other support mechanisms that Estonia has available. And I think the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications, check out their website. They can be very helpful if you're looking for something like this.
Great hint, Ivan, and thank you for a very elaborate presentation here.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Now that Ivan has left the stage, I feel again rather lonely, just surrounded by machines, tech, and huge screens. And I'm glad to note that although robots are getting better every day, we still need people. Now, Katrin Eero will describe the labor market in Ida-Viru region. What can you expect, education or training-wise, from the people living there? What are the average salaries, and are there actually working-age people available? Katrin knows all the numbers. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to be here and represent Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund. I'm going to make an overview of the labor market situation in our county and the opportunities to support employers. Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund's mission is to support finding work and workers. As employers needs qualified employees, we support employers in finding and training suitable staff, developing the skills of the employees and creating jobs. The population of Estonia is about 1.3 million people. In Ida-Viru County lives about 132,000 people. When we talk about unemployment, we can talk about registered unemployment. In Ida-Viru County, the number of registered unemployment is 6,566 people today. The rate of registered unemployment in Estonia is 7%, but in Ida-Viru County the percent is more than 12. More than 11. The rate of registered unemployment in our county has been always higher. And one of the reasons is that people who have been redundant from energy sector have difficulties finding a new job with equivalent salary. 43% of unemployed people have vocational education. And with higher education, there are about 23% of unemployed people. 66% of unemployed people are in age 25 and 54 years old. In this slide, you can see how the unemployed people are divided into occupational groups. Most of all, we have custom service and sales workers, equipment and machine operators, skilled workers, and also unskilled workers. More than 45% of the job offers in Estonia are mediated by the Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund. There are more than 6,100 job offers in Estonia today, and in Ida-Viru we have 740 job offers. So we are very interested in new investments in our county. In this slide, you can see monthly gross wages in our county in different positions. The salary depends, of course, of tasks of the profession. In this slide are shown the main services for employers to support them and to support them. The regional support for creating jobs is the measure for our county, and it is in focus in our region. First of all, we recommend you to publish a job advertisement on the Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund portal. After that, we can organize recruitment events, and this will be held or in our office or via Microsoft Teams. For larger companies and foreign investors, we offer also searching for personnel, and it saves the time of employers. The work trial is a good opportunity to check that candidates is suitable for the position before signing contract with them. In case of work trial, salary may not be paid and participation may not be entered into the register of employment. Apprenticeship's purpose is to provide a client with practical work experience that is necessary for recruitment and to gain professional skills and knowledge. It's not allowed to conclude an employment contract or pay salary. During the apprenticeships, Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund will pay remuneration to the employer for the supervision. In the first month, more than 27 euros per day, and the other months are a little bit less. A wage subsidy is a support given to hire unemployed persons like long-term unemployed, with people with a reduced working capacity, and young people who have not worked or have short-term work experience. This kind of wage subsidy is called My First Job. The amount of the subsidy is 50% of the employee's salary gross, but no more than the minimum wage. If the employer hire young people, the amount of the subsidy is 50%, but no more than twice the minimum wage. Wage subsidy is paid for half of the period of employment in case of fixed-term employment contract, or 6 or 12 months in case of permanent contract. Wage subsidy is paid on the basis of payments declared to the Tax and Customs Board. So you are not need to provide us any additional documents. Regional support for creating job, as I said, is a measure for our county to increase employability, to reduce unemployment. The amount of the subsidy is 50% of the employee's salary, but no more than twice the minimum wage. The regional support is a type of wage subsidy. Support is paid to employers who employ at least 5 unemployed persons in 2 months and pay the wages for the job at least 1.5 times a minimum wage. The third condition is that the job is located in the Ida-Viru County. Training cost compensation's aim is to help develop the employee's skills and increase their employability on the labor market. We compensate the employer 100% for work-related training costs, but not more than 2,500 euros per employee. It's in case if the employer hires people with wage subsidy like My First Job or regional support for creating jobs. Employers can apply for a training grant to recruit new employees, train employees in changing circumstances, develop employees' Estonian language and information and communication technology skills, and we will generally compensate up to 80% of the total costs, but not more than 2,500 euro per employee. If employer hire new employees and they are our clients, then we will generally compensate up to 100% of the total costs. The training grant compensates the employer's training costs, transport costs if it takes place outside of Estonia, and wage costs in the rate of the minimum hourly wage. And what are the advantages of Ida-Viru County? Ida-Viru has always been and always will be an industrial area. So we have enough manpower with experience in working in an industrial company. Development of industrial parks indicates that new industrial and logistics companies are interested in this area. Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund has opportunity to help employers with regional support for creating jobs. Also, we make close cooperation with local educational institutions like TalTech Virumaa College and Ida-Virumaa Vocational Education Center to train the necessary workforce. And now an example of cooperation with an investor. Primatech Coatings is the biggest in Russia and one of the most modern manufacturers in Europe producing powder coatings. Primatech Coatings started working with us to recruit employees in the summer 2018. The recruitment process was successful because of publishing job offers through our website. The employers clearly describe requirements for the future employee, of course motivating salary and new and innovative technologies. Also the desire of local job seekers to work in a modern manufacturing company. As a result of productive cooperation, 36 of our clients were hired with regional support of creating jobs. So it was my short overview of the labor market situation in our county. If you are interested in our services or cooperation, please contact me or my colleagues. We are fully prepared to advise and support with paperwork. Thank you very much for listening and welcome to Ida-Viru County.
Thank you so much, Katrin. We don't have any questions for you, so I guess it's time to wrap up today's conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, as you've witnessed in the last 2 hours, Estonians go straight to the point and don't waste your time. There are clearly a lot of benefits in Ida-Viru County. Now is the time to expand your business to Estonia. Just transition fund grants applications are opening in a few months. Contact Ivia for specific information and a personalized value proposition for your business. Thanks for being with us virtually today, and I do hope to see you in person in Estonia soon.
Anyone can change the world. Estonians have always been striving for innovation in technology and our way of life. Our digital infrastructure and our citizens' readiness to use new technology is your chance to test new products and services more effectively and receive faster feedback. Innovation and change is the end result of all true learning and education. Think of Estonia's smart business ecosystem as a test bed for your next innovation.